November 21st, 2019, Lower Frederick Township Planning Commission meeting to order. 7:15. I apologize for the delay. Announcements. Township meetings are recorded for the purpose of preparing minutes, and the recording is destroyed 6 months after the minutes are approved. Public comment. Do you have any public comment this time? Okay. Approval of the minutes. We need approval of the minutes from our October 17th, 2019 meeting. I think Ernie noticed something.
Yeah, there's one correction here. It's on the last page. It's the discussion of open space sale, hay, and associated sewage planning waiver at the Arcadia Crossing is motion number 2, request for planning waiver, just a minor typo instead of planning waiver. Planning waiver. That's all I could, that's the only mistake I saw. That's very minor. And I'll move for the correction.
Second? I'll second. All in favor of approving the October 17, 2019 minutes with the correction?
Aye.
Okay, so last month you saw that we did a letter of support for a DCED grant for sewer expansion project for Babington, Riverside. There is also a second DCED grant that we are going to do a letter of support for. This is for camera inspection.
Correct.
This
Video inspection of the existing collection system to seek out more sources of good flow.
So basically, when you submit these applications, they do require the planning commission letters of support from the planning commission as well. So with that said, I'll make a motion that we sign a letter of support as the planning commission for the 2019 DCED PA Small Water and Sewer Grant Program.
I'll second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you all for getting
Just
that.
remind me to sign.
Okay. Both of you, please.
Okay. Item number 2, sketch plan review for 225 Big Road land development. We learned a day or so ago that applicant is not coming tonight, and that they are changing their plan or modifying their plan based on their reading and review of our engineer's review letter. So my guess would be, although I don't know for sure, that we'll get a revised plan perhaps in time for next month's meeting. We don't know. Is that a fair statement?
That's good.
So at this time, we'll table that discussion, and then we'll resume it when we get the revised plan in or something from the developers. That's a Jim Terra project. Yes, Bob?
Is it possible to see what the letter was from the engineer and what she expressed to Jen Terra? I mean, it sounds like it's something that's not normally done this way.
It happens. It's happened before. I don't know what the precedent is.
It does happen that way. There's a plan, there's a review letter, and then it's not unusual at all to have modifications to it. As far as the request to see the letter, I'm sure you see the township manager, there's a right to know. It'd be available on the right to know.
I mean, sometimes the developers, they get their plan in and they want to get in the queue for a meeting. And then, that way, if they don't see anything unexpected, they'll follow through. So, just want to make sure that they have a spot for them.
Fair to say it was done at the request of the applicant, not the township, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, item 3. Andy, do you want to?
Yes, let me start off. First, I want to announce that the Planning Commission conducted an executive session tonight regarding the potential for litigation. I also want to try to frame the issues here. First, though, I want to address one issue. We have, as I understand it, 3 supervisors elect on the Planning Commission as of the moment. So for this applicant, as well as any applicant who comes before them throughout the remainder of this year, that it's any action taken by the Planning Commission, any words spoken, positions staked out by any of the supervisors elect is not to be taken as a view as to how they intend to act once they become supervisors. So I just want that clarification, that disclaimer out there. All right, now to the Melbourne Hill application. So it's not your standard application that we have before us tonight. You have a situation where this developer has a preliminary plan approval, conditional preliminary plan approval, dating back over a decade. And they can pursue that plan. However, they have an alternate plan, an alternative plan, now before the township in this sense. They have proposed, instead of the 47 or 46 homes, they have proposed 60 homes. In order to attain that, they need certain zoning relief. They've made application to the zoning hearing board. In the normal course, a municipality will look at it and decide whether the Board of Supervisors will make a recommendation one way or the other for that zoning relief. In this case, the Board of Supervisors at their most recent meeting sent this plan back to the Planning Commission and requested that the Planning Commission provide some direction, some recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. So that's why we're here tonight. To frame the issue, it's that the applicant has a conditional preliminary plan approval, but they've presented an alternative plan. And presently, they have, I don't know if you have a date scheduled with the zoning hearing board yet?
No,
December.
we took it off the calendar, trying.
You had initially, and then another date is coming up. So this is solely a question of whether the Planning Commission can and will make a recommendation, positive or negative, to the Board of Supervisors on the zoning application that is the alternative plan.
They do have a date of the 10th, from what I received. Yeah, that's good, right.
If you haven't heard, you will hear then of a date before the zoning hearing
Okay.
in December sometime.
Okay.
So,
That's what I received.
so this is not your standard plan review that the Planning Commission is used to. It's more, there's a conceptual plan, and when in fact it's a sketch plan that was presented, a one-page, I believe, sketch plan. And so it's the concept that the applicant is before you on, and it is that concept upon which they are requesting zoning relief. So with that said, I think it makes sense that council and Ben Goldthorpe are present, Carl Wiener as counsel for the developer. I think it makes sense if you want to start off, we know what you have in terms of that conditional preliminary plan approval, with the conditions, with the requirements, in the context of what you've achieved to date. But you have this alternative plan. Why don't you address, if you will, please, what are the positives to the township for your alternative plan?
Okay, that's fine. Start with that. So I think as we mentioned last time, what we are proposing is to provide a community sewer system, in addition to a sewer system that would serve the lots in our development, to provide a pump station which would serve purchase an additional property which is next door, provide for a declaration of restrictions on that property so it's not developed, take the development rates off that property, essentially transfer them to this property, to increase the number of lots from 46 or 47, depending on your interpretation, to some number that we had proposed 60, although I think we indicated last time there was some flexibility in that number. We believe that, quote, on a by right basis, we believe that 9 lots can be generated out of the Schmidt property that we conservatively on this property, which would be a total of a minimum of 55 lots. Again, we had proposed 60, we do some wiggle room. But the benefit to the township is that we had the understanding, based on when this plan went through the original development process, and I believe it was confirmed by the sewer alternative report done by value engineering, that there are systems in the area that are problematic. The Act 537 plan anticipated addressing those systems. And so the plan that we proposed would allow us to address those systems and work with the township in building a facility that would address sewer on a more community-wide basis, but provide a number of lots that would make it financially feasible for us to do that. So that's essentially, in a nutshell, what our proposal is, to add some additional lots to what can be termed the by right number of lots, but instead of providing a simple system, according to the alternatives that indicated the sewer report, which would be simple, some combination of grinder pumps and gravity or low pressure line to provide a system that would be a pump station and provide sewer again for the larger community. That's our proposal.
So we can simplify what you've said down to the sewering issue is a pivotal issue that seems to be what you're looking to get some guidance or direction to,
Correct.
through that issue.
That's exactly what it was.
Okay, gotcha.
And in order to, I guess, increase the number of lots on this property, that's what a lot, to have that density, we need to reduce some of the lot sizes, and there's various elements of zoning relief that would be necessary to implement that plan.
Very good, thank you.
One question I have is, I'm sure you received the letter that was generated by Value. Do you have any questions that anything in that letter?
No, actually, I think I speak for my client, but I think it was pretty straightforward, and I think pretty on target in our understanding of what the situation is with respect to the Act 537 plan, with respect to surrounding sewer, and with respect to our alternatives.
Right. Right, I mean, not that I intend on getting into it, but I mean, there is a long history with this project of commitments, that, we're trying to work through that. And I guess the other question is, do you have any questions on the review letter that was generated by our engineer?
We saw the review letter. I guess the review letter only becomes important depending on where we are going with this alternative. So a number of the items of zoning relief that are mentioned in the review letter we've already anticipated in the application that we filed. There are a few additional ones that were mentioned in the letter that we need to take a bit of a closer look at and see whether they are applicable, and we may amend the application to include those. They're not entirely separate and distinct from what we've already asked for, but there are some nuances, such as a number of lots in the neighborhood comes to my mind, and I think there's one other that ties into the density configuration of our plan, but it doesn't really add new elements to it, it's just other aspects of the same application. So we, in general, we understood the comments that were made in that review letter. Again, what we delve into it further depends on the direction that we get.
So your proposal, basically you mentioned two numbers. You said 55 EDUs and 60.
Well, 50, right. So our belief, okay, and our position is that we were approved for a minimum of 46 lots, and there's some argument about 47, but let's say 46 is a working number. We also believe that it is realistic to be able to get 9 lots if the Schmidt property were to be developed, that we have under agreement in the hopes of trying to work out a resolution with the township. If we deed restricted that property so that it could not be developed other than the pump station that we put there, that would, again, carry over that density of 9 lots for our property to get us to 55, and somewhere in between the 60 that we submitted and 55, we would hope to reach agreement with the township.
Right, and you're looking at the fact that this property, the Schmidt property, would remain the way it is and be restricted, single-family residence, and then I guess you clean up the property,
Right.
remove the barn, or do whatever you want, and then sell that, and we would have no other construction built forever. That would be deed restricted.
That's the concept.
Well, whatever they want to do, I mean, they're going to, you know, the barn needs work. It does need work, but that's up to them. But, and again, this is all cognizant.
Well, you said nothing with that property does not be developed. It
Right.
was deed restricted forever in perpetuity or further developed.
And then you would build a sewer pump station at that time, and that sewer pump station would not be of no benefit to Melbourne, would it? When a pump station built on Southern Station Road on the Schmidt property, wherever you would locate it, near a low point, and that would have, explain to us here what your process would be.
Okay. So, you want to go into the details?
Sure.
Yeah, that's the benefit.
Sure. So,
Mr. Goldthorpe, I'm sorry.
so by putting a pump station on the Schmidt property, that's the low point in the area. So all of the sewer from the Melbourne Hope site would travel down South Station Road to that pump station. So this entire project would flow via gravity to a pump station on the Schmidt property, and then a force main from the pump station would come back up Southford Station, down 29 to the manhole of the water.
And you'd be responsible for building all of that.
That's correct.
What is the estimated cost of that?
So we're thinking it's somewhere around $1.4 million.
That the pump station, that doesn't include the purchase of the Schmidt property?
It does.
It does, okay. Yeah, that's why I wanted that explained. So the point would be for us, that we would be getting something out of this, and it seems like what you're toying with right now is the amount of EDUs between 55 and 60. And I guess my plan shows here, I can't read it from here, but the lot sizes have been increased to approximately 7,500 from your original 6,000 plus.
Not on this plan, but we've offered that in the past.
I thought I read it on the one I have here.
May I ask a question? Let's say we take the Schmidt property, the pump station, and everything off of the table. And you just sewer your 46, or I'll even give you the 47 perhaps, homes on Melbourne Hill.
Sure.
And you just figure out your sewage options.
Yep.
Would you be able to entertain 10,000 square foot lots? And then there would be no change to our
Correct.
zoning.
That's correct.
So
That's correct.
that is an option that you
Absolutely.
would consider.
Yeah.
Just have at it with what you have already approved
That's
or
correct.
preliminary approval, and then the township would be responsible for figuring out how to fix the one or two lots on Southwood Station Road that have sewage issues.
Carol, do you have a laser pointer?
Usually.
Yeah.
Yep, I do.
So one of the things that we've talked about in the past is I'm going to use this as just an example, but the 47 homes extended up further into the property. So
There's that picture if you need it.
yeah, let's use that.
That's your 2008 plan, right?
So this is the 2008 plan. And so one of the options could be to provide a hybrid system where we balance, we perhaps have more than the 4 or 5 grinder pumps that were originally approved with maybe the answer, I don't know, I'm just going to throw out numbers, maybe 25 homes have grinder pumps and 25 are via gravity. I think that's what Linda was suggesting. And so then we would have a line that would come down 29 to connect into Little Road. In doing that, depending on what, how that all laid out, we would look to perhaps have that gravity line perhaps continue up into here. Maybe these folks would be serviced via gravity, and back here these folks would be served via a low pressure system. So that would be a
hybrid system, to at one point, we were suggesting all 47 homes would be low pressure directly to that, the manhole lower.
And afford then perhaps the existing homes on Little Road to perhaps maybe tie into your system, you know, in the back lot.
So, yeah, that we have to look at the grade, but potentially sewer.
I think it's all downhill, so that which is probably a gravity connection.
It would depend what the elevation in the road is. But we could look at that. And then an opportunity going up Southford Station Road would be if and again, this would be something from the township, not necessarily us, but in the future, rather than having a pump station, they could put a low pressure line up Southford Station Road.
And address the one house on the corner that has an issue.
So in other words, you're suggesting that while you're at 29 opened up, that you should install some infrastructure that can then accommodate a future connection?
Sure. I mean, if the answer was, yeah, if we're out here doing work and the question is, can we stuff a pipe across, 50 feet or something like that and get on the other side, outside of 29, we would have to do that as part of the project.
And I think at one time, I don't know if it was one of Phil's sketch plans or whatever, it was based on the 47 lot area. He had reconfigured it slightly so it didn't extend quite as far. I think you were still dealing with 10,000 square foot lots, but you kind of tightened it up a bit and brought it more so all this way. Is that still a possibility?
Really, our preference would be, look, if because this is already designed,
Yeah.
we would just stick with this design rather than kind of open up a can of worms and redesign a site that already has been through that process. We would just stick with the design as we have here. And these are 10,000 square foot lots.
I just remember seeing, maybe it was a concept plan, that it didn't extend quite this far. I think you kind of, I don't know what they did, but it was more like oblong, sort of. See, this is different, because this has two circular things here.
Sure.
So that is slightly different. So maybe that is the plan that I'm thinking of.
When we talked about this back in December, one of the things that was brought forward to you and you were somewhat amenable to from the standpoint, this is what you showed as the lot structure. And Bill presented a couple of alternatives on this theme that were relatively close. And this sketch is the one they were going to go back and tweak and try to accommodate, which has the same number of houses and so forth.
I think maybe that's the
So,
one.
but how many, from the standpoint of, let's see, from the standpoint of the number of grinder pumps, so in order to accommodate this with, our preference is to have as many things on gravities as can possibly be done. And in an ideal world, that would exceed 50%. Do you think that's an attainable?